store for you this evening. So buckle up, get yourself prepared to take notes, either mentally or written down. And we are going to bring to our platform for just another visit with us. Not going to count them up. I don't even think that's necessary. Our show is called Your Home Hospital and Kitchen Clinic, Your Immune System War Chest. Now, you remember Sister Kareema Medina Bilal called her kits last time she was with us. She called them a medical bag, but she's calling this a war chest. So you know she got some heavy-duty equipment for us, some ammunition for us. So Sister Kareema is a Stanford University trained physician assistant and is licensed in 2 of our states. She has 42 years cumulative training and experience in the practice of internal medicine, family and occupational medicine, OBGYN, and women's health. Her present focus is on the early detection, prevention, and reversal of obesity and diabetes, as she believes it underlies the majority of our chronic disease. Sister Kareema says that this show is about the actual mechanics of caring for your body the way a provider would. I'm going to put in there should. Come get the tools you need for your health and healing. So she'll be providing additional information on the immune system and how to help it function properly. As we learn more, we can make wiser decisions about our health and well-being. So again, our discussion tonight is on your home, hospital, and kitchen clinic, your immune system war chest. I just love it. My sister, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am. I am here. Can you hear me?
I can. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I am always so grateful for the warm way that you receive me, Sister Sandy. It warms my heart. I think the most heartwarming thing that a person can do for another is to validate their work. And you do that in a wonderful way. I feel the sincerity of it, and I'm honored. I'm honored every time I come on this show. So thank you for that. I'd like to, I heard you when you said leave some time for questions at the end. So I will do my best to condense my remarks and make sure that we allow for that. I want to issue a disclaimer first. And the disclaimer is that in this broadcast, I am presenting information for educational purposes only. There's nothing that I'm going to say tonight that is intended to imply or describe a patient-provider relationship between you, the listener, and me, the presenter. Any actions that you, the listener, take because you think it is the best thing for you, and you assume the risks for those actions. I say that so that we can proceed and have an open and lively discussion. The second thing that I'd like to say is that I receive no compensation, zero compensation, either from the publishers or the authors of the books that I will reference or the products that I might reference. I identify them and I speak on them because I've used them or because I've read them and because I can personally attest to the veracity, to the effectiveness of them. And I dearly want to share that with you. It is such a mercy to be on the same page with your peers. I heard your prayer, Sister Sandy, and your words of affirmation, and they resonated very deeply with me about being ready to receive. And I say that for this reason. Like many people, I have asthma. Notice I did not say I'm an asthmatic. And neither did I say that I suffer with asthma. I have asthmatic condition. And the night before last was a difficult asthma night. And I said in prayer, I am tired of having asthma. I do not wish to have it or experience it ever, 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 ever again. And I'm ready for it to be gone. Gone. G-O-N, gone. And I went to sleep thinking about that. And when I woke up this morning, there's a book that I had taken from my library. And the book is called Oxygen Therapies, A New Way of Approaching Disease. The author's name is Ed McCabe. And I was just impelled. Something in me was just, and I've had this book for years. I've easily had this book 5 to 7, maybe 10 years, and never really read it. But there was something in me that was driving me to open this book. And what did I find? I find prescriptions. I can't say that. I find information and protocols on how to reverse asthma, as well as many other. I'm telling you, the universe, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yes, ma'am.
So I jumped into that. Now we're talking about 5 o'clock this morning, and I've read half the book. It's like a 300-page book. I've read half of it, and I intend, with God's grace and permission, to share some of those nuggets that I've gleaned from there. I will, in the course of this presentation, give you some references that I want very much for the audience to take advantage of. Now, here's the big deal here. In this present environment, one of the silver linings to this very dark cloud is that we are learning how important it is to take control of your own health. It could not be more important now than it has been in the past. And I say that because recently we lost a friend. I mean, in the last couple of days, we lost a friend, and we also lost, I'm not going to say that. We witnessed the transition. I like that better. We witnessed the transition of someone who was a dear friend of the family as she returned to her maker. And one of the things that bothered me about that is the fact that when a person goes into the hospital in this present crisis environment, there's a couple of things that happen that we should all be up in arms about. One of those things is that due to the emergency declaration, there is a suspension of what's called the Patient Bill of Rights. The Patient Bill of Rights. Prior to this whole crisis environment, when you go into the hospital after admission, you would receive a packet, and in it, it tells you what your rights are, which are fundamentally, you have a right to know who's taking care of you. You have a right to know what medications are being used and what they're for. You have a right to appoint somebody to speak for you when you can't speak for yourself, among other things. You have a right to decline things that you don't think are appropriate for you. Now, this, of course, may put you in direct conflict with your provider. And as a provider, I can say we don't really like that. However, we acknowledge, due to the Nuremberg trials, due to basic God-given right, you cannot and should not force somebody into something that they do not want. You have sovereign rights over your body. Well, this is suspended during this environment. That is horrifying to me. So I want to make sure, if I say nothing else, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. All of you listeners, Ask anybody, is it true? Call your hospitals and ask them, is it true that the patient's Bill of Rights is now suspended due to the emergency? And get back to me and let me know. I want nothing better than to be proven wrong. But do come with evidence. Don't come with hearsay. I do my research, and it is to everybody's benefit that you do yours. The second thing that's happening that's disturbing is that family members are not allowed in a lot of circumstances to be present, even for something as personal, as far-reaching as the birth of their child. I have read of circumstances where they will not allow, certainly they're not allowing grandparents. I know that personally. They may allow the father of the baby to be present during the birth, but look at how that disrupts the family and corrupts the family dynamic. This is wrong, and it's all under a false assumption. It's all under a false assumption. I'm going to stay to the topic, and I'm going to make sure that I keep our discussion on what we can do and minimize the discussion of the many things that are wrong in the situation we find ourselves in. I am, however, very much about changing the narrative. Yeah, I'm about that. I'm about us, we the people, taking control of our health freedom. And in order to do that, you must be informed. You must be informed. So I'm asking the source of all wisdom, the source of all guidance, the source of all healing, the source of all power, to guide me, empower me, direct me to say what will be most beneficial to everyone who hears me, and protect me from misstatements or anything that would get in the way of being a clear channel for the information that the Creator wants me to convey. This I ask, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, with the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. So there are three things I want you to get from this presentation. I want you to get hope. I want you to get empowerment. I want you to get understanding. And I'm going to add one more to that. I'm stealing this from my husband. I want you to get activated. Yeah, I hope I'll be the enzyme that starts the reaction in your spirit and in your mind to want to know more and to do more so that you can be an active participant in your own healthcare. Let me do a very quick review. I do this because it bears repeating. There are three basic principles of healing, three basic principles of health. I reference John Tilden, Dr. John Tilden. In each of the broadcasts I've done before, I've mentioned his name. I think his book is well worth your read. The True Origins, I think he calls it Toxemia, The True Origins of Disease. But look it up, just in case, because I don't have the book exactly in front of me. Look it up, you'll find it. And the premises that he bases his argument on, as I understand them, are that all organisms are created to thrive in a particular environment. We humans are created to thrive in a particular environment. We are air-breathing creatures. We walk on the earth. We may swim in the ocean. We may swim in lakes, pools, rivers, but we are air-breathing, land-dwelling creatures, And as long as we're in this environment, we do well. Whales, they are ocean-dwelling creatures. As long as they're in that environment, they thrive, they do well. Plants, each one has their own environment. You do not expect plants that thrive in the jungle to do well in the desert, and vice versa. It may seem that I'm restating the obvious or belaboring a point, but when you get this, then you understand probably more than your average physician does. Ooh. Second thing, when you create that environment, the organism will thrive. Third thing, change the environment and you change the behavior of the organism. Therefore, if we are sitting here, comfortable and warm in our homes, the lights are on, praise God, the bills have been paid. The air is warm, the temperature is just right. I'm not too hot, I'm not too cold. The proper mix of oxygen, nitrogen, etc. is perfect in the room that I'm in. Therefore, I can sit here and behave in this way, hold this conversation, think properly, and be at ease. Now, should that environment change, the lights go out, the heat goes off, the air changes where there's smoke in the air, anything like that, my behavior, trust and believe, is going to change, as will yours. So what, you may ask, does this have to do with health, healing, your immune system, your well-being, your ability to thrive in this, yes, I'll say it, artificially created environment that dominates the airwaves and has dominated our society, the world, for the last 2 years? Well, these things, here are my 3 points. Number 1, the situation as it now exists has been designed so that the only thing you can do is wait for illness and tragedy to hit you and then go to the hospital and be put on a ventilator. That's pretty much what they've been telling people to do. Go home. When your oxygen falls, when your temperature goes up, then come back. And what has been the result of that? People freaking out, hospitals being overwhelmed. But are they overwhelmed because of people being critically ill? Well, some of them. The large part of it is people freaking out and coming to the hospital, seeking treatment for things which they ordinarily would have handled themselves. However, very little of what you hear in the common media is encouraging you or teaching you or supporting you in doing anything to make yourself well or to prevent becoming ill in the first place. And this is the place where I want to intervene. We're talking about the immune system. The second thing that I want you to know is that when you feed your troops, your immune system, then your body is going to be exquisitely, oh, hear me with a big X and a Q, exquisitely able to defend itself against this common pathogen and many others, many others. It does this as we speak. It's been doing it since the day you were created, the moment you were created. And as long as you support the troops, you have every reason to expect that you're going to be all right, irrespective of this present situation or any to come. Why? Because the human race is still here. Were it not for this adaptation, this ability to overcome things in the environment, and furthermore, to pass it on to succeeding generations, the human race would have died out. Third thing, I want to teach you some chemistry. Oh, did everybody's eyes just kind of glaze over and go, oh, no, not chemistry? Yes, basic chemistry, which, believe it or not, I did not like or understand myself. Even though I went to school, I was trained, I absolutely hated it. But thank God for the internet. Thank God for people who have mastered their understanding of the subject to a degree that they are able to express it, to write it, to demonstrate it, to video it, and put it in terms that the layperson can understand. And even given that, there are still lay people that won't understand the articles or won't understand the videos. And this is where my gift can manifest. So this is what I want us to know. I want to help explain to you in my way what an amazing gift you have in your immune system, what it is, how it works. I want to show you, give you a couple of examples of things that you can do in your house, your home hospital, your kitchen clinic, your cupboard pharmacy. Things that you have that are within your ability to afford that can make a difference in your health. Now, I'm going to tailor it to what we're experiencing now and help you keep from getting ill in the first place. Remember, how many of us in childhood were given a fish? Let me give you a classic example to illustrate all three of those principles. Can you remember being given a goldfish? And in those days, I had a goldfish in a bowl. I did not have a pump and a filter and pH strips to test the water and all of that stuff. What I had was a goldfish in a bowl. And like most children, I was fascinated by feeding the thing and watching it eat. What I didn't understand is that fish, while he or she is eating, is living in its own wastes. Because who even understood that fish poop? Yeah, they do. They eat just like us. They breathe just like us. And they excrete wastes just like us. And sure enough, after you fed it enough, and because our parents certainly were too busy to instruct us in the niceties and the intricacies of caring for exotic fish, very soon we'd come in there and find the thing belly up and floating on the top. Now, what was that all about? Well, three things, actually. The point is that the environment became toxic for the fish. You see, if you don't have a pump and you're not bubbling water through the water, then the fish uses up the oxygen in the water. All living things have to they have to breathe. I shouldn't say all that. There are some bacteria that live in our gut that don't use oxygen. But let's just say many living things, and especially goldfish, need oxygen. Well, if you don't change the water and the fish uses up all the water, the oxygen in the water, well, then it suffocates. The second thing is the food that you put in there has a certain characteristic, and it changes the chemical nature of the water, and it no longer is a healthful environment. And the third thing is the fish excretes his wastes in the water. So he swims in his own wastes in an environment where he can't breathe. So it's the logical outcome that the thing will die. Well, I want you to see how that functions, that same analogy functions in your life. You see, you don't give the fish an antibiotic. You don't treat the fish. You treat the environment. Make sure you get that. How could we have changed that situation? Change the water. Now it's clean water. It's oxygenated water. Huh? And you eliminate the wastes. So I want you to keep that analogy and those first three things I told you from Dr. John Tilden. Proper environment. Give the right environment, the organism grows. Give it a bad environment, the organism dies. Okay? Now, once you understand those basic things, you got a really firm grip of biology. Congratulations, you get promoted. Beautiful thing is, you are a walking laboratory. Yeah, there are many things that you can do yourself, and as long as you educate yourself, inform yourself, just as we're doing in this broadcast, just as I have done, then you can take steps to heal yourself in confidence that you're not going to do yourself any harm. And when you consider that the number one cause of death, according to Gary Null and Death by Medicine, people who are well-trained, 10 years in training, still make mistakes and people die. Huh? So you at least have a fighting chance if you inform yourself. In some cases now with the internet, especially I believe with what I'm going to tell you tonight, you will know more than many of the practicing physicians right now understand. So let's proceed. The question, what is your immune system and what does it do? I'm sure the presenters earlier this month have given you their spin. Let me tell you what I believe. Your immune system is fundamentally your security force. Yes, it's your Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. It's your police system. It's your SWAT team. It's your detectives and investigators. Yeah, it's your wardens. What do you mean, Kareema? Well, this body that we have is exquisitely designed. And I have to use that word. I can't think of a better word. Exquisitely designed by a creator that man is still striving to equal and will never be able to equal. It has made the human body a fortress. A fortress. There are specific ways that things get into your body and specific ways that things get out of your body. And the one who created us, call that one whatever you will, I call it Allah, has made it so well that as long as it is intact, it can fight, defend, repair, repel, and remember countless things, countless things that can harm you. Now, this system is, it's stationed at the entry points. It's beautiful when you think about it. Let's take something really simple as your ears. You ever wonder what earwax is? Besides something that you can take and put in your mustache. Well, earwax is a protector for things going into your ear. Yeah. And of course, you have to maintain it and you have to clean it and keep it in its right consistency and so on and so forth. But that's one of the things that earwax does. Let's look at your eyes. You have tears. By the fact that we have tears and the pH of your tears and the consistency of your tears, it lubricates and protects the eye so that anything that gets into your eye will get flushed away. And the nervous system, the nerves that cover your eye, are so sensitive that an invading particle something like a grain of sand or even a hair will be detected, and your body will make you acutely aware you got a hair in your eye. That is one of the most frustrating things. I loathe and despise that when it happens. But think about it. Let's talk about, these are the two things there's three things I'm very, very focused on. Your nose, your mouth, and for women, your vagina. Oh no, she's not going there. Yes, I am. And I have a specific reason for doing that. Let's look at your nose. The respiratory illnesses that we're dealing with right now, how do they get in your body? They get in your body because you inhale them. Now let's look at the majesty of the Creator and how the Creator structured your nose so that invading particles are detected, trapped in mucus, and then expelled, violently expelled through sneezing, all without your conscious awareness or effort. So, and to get a little bit more technical, there are specific cells that are deployed and that are sent and exist in your nose so that when a foreign substance, we're going to call it a pathogen, is detected, these cells will memorize who it is, what it is, how it acts, so that the next time it shows up, it will be attacked and neutralized. This is your immune system in action. You may have heard of something called adenoids, right? Well, adenoids are lymphatic tissue. Well, what's your lymphatic system? It's a companion to your circulatory system. And in the lymphatic system are way stations, substations, subway stops, if you want to call it, where fluid that collects waste and collects debris circulates. And as this fluid passes through these way stations, in this case, it's called your adenoids, right? And in your mouth, it's called your tonsils. These are systems where large numbers of soldiers of different kinds with different abilities and weapons to kill, this is where they reside. So that when you inhale it, it will be detected, it'll be forcibly ejected, it'll be neutralized. It's an amazing thing when you think about it. Let's look at how other things get in through the mouth. This is where your tonsils come in. Did you know that your saliva has enzymes in it? It has pH, a certain, you've heard of acid-base balance, a pH, so that the things that you eat, the things that you swallow, the things that you put in your mouth, a lot of those germs are killed in the saliva, let alone you swallow them. Are you beginning to get excited? I stay excited behind this. Now, once you understand this, you also begin to get a hope, a curious thought. If you really want to give someone immunity to a given pathogen, we'll say disease, doesn't it make sense to empower the soldiers where they will enter, which is the respiratory system, versus injecting it into a muscle? Think about that. Something that is for the protection of the respiratory system. The body is exquisitely well designed and set up to handle that, versus giving it not even the real thing, something that vaguely resembles the real thing, to create antibodies to it, when the soldiers who are much better at neutralizing the threat already exist. It's a very interesting concept to question. I'll let you ponder that. My second point is you give the troops what they need, and they will defend. You think the military that we have is fierce? That's only because you haven't seen killer T cells. Oh, it makes my skin tingle. If you ever get a minute when you can steal away, you should look up the immune system and the activity. What do killer T cells do? What do B cells do? What am I talking about? Your Army, your SWAT team, your Navy SEALs, these are specialized soldiers in your immune system. Some of them recognize, some of them patrol, some of them do the search and destroy and will sacrifice themselves when they see the offending pathogen. They engulf it and they secrete enzymes, they secrete substances which kill it, even at the risk of its own demise. And in the doing, they send out a signal to their buddies and say, okay, I'm going down, son, but here, come clean this up. And the rest of you guys, when you see the next one, get him. It's just, it's G.I. Joe at his finest, at his absolute finest. You've not seen anything like it. But what do? We tend to do things in our lifestyle that shoot we do friendly fire. We shoot our troops in the foot. How do we do that? Food, lifestyle, toxic substances like alcohol, sugar, cigarette smoke, recreational drugs. And then we wonder, why do we get sick? It's an amazing thing that we're still alive and able to function, given the damage that we do to ourselves by our lifestyle. So a lot of this discussion is going to be, how do you support the troops? Yeah. So I want to, while I'm thinking about it, I want you to keep in mind that part of the narrative right now is fear of death. If you catch the current pathogen, you'll get it and you'll die. Let me remind us all that no matter what you do, one day we're all going to die. So the question is not how you're going to die. The question is how you're going to live. You're going to live in fear. You're going to live in sickness. We just had Brother Martin Luther King's birthday. And what that reminded me of was boycotts, right? The Montgomery boycott, how elegantly he orchestrated that. And what the push back in those days, forget this nonsense Black Lives Matter is trying to tell you about now. Sandy can tell you, I can tell you, that in the 50s and the 60s, taking a stand was really to put yourself in danger. So how did we do it during Jim Crow? We organized just like the body does. Your immune system is very, very, very well organized. And we work together the same way your respiratory system, your nose, your gut, your lungs, your liver, all of the body works together as one to accomplish a specific goal. And this is what we have to do now. Every minute of every day. Everything that you have no idea, the mercy of God, how many things you face every day that could kill you. And I mean kill you faster than what this particular agent is. There's stuff that 50% of the people who are walking around at any given time, let's just take Walmart as an example. If you were to sample take a nasal swab of 50 out of 100 people walking around shopping in Walmart, you would find MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, which can kill you in 24 hours. Did we have people walking around at that time with masks? No. People were doing what they were doing. Nobody thought about it. Did you have hand sanitizers everywhere you go? No. People handling produce, coughing in their hands, handling produce. We bought it, we ate it, and kept right on going. Nobody was 6 foot distancing, social distance, foolishness. But I digress. Every time you get in a car, think about it. You're in a almost 4,000-pound missile. And if you're on a 2-lane street, you guys are driving at each other, almost playing chicken. But you do it. Why is that? Because you take appropriate measures and you use intelligence. So, yes, this is where our Christian brothers and sisters have a very nice prescription in the Bible. And that is, yea, though I walk through the valley and the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Not because I'm all that, but because God is. Call God what you want, the Creator. In the Quran, we have something. It says, if Allah protects you, none can overcome you. If He forsakes you, who is it after that can help you? In Allah, then, let the believers put their trust. So I had to say that so that you can proceed without fear. Now, what are some things that you have right here in your house that can help you? I want to make sure that you're aware of water. Water. I want you to also be aware of its companion, oxygen. Water and oxygen. I told you I was going to teach you a little bit of chemistry, so don't panic. Yes, I want you to be aware that there are 3 pieces of medical equipment that you should have in your house. Now, this became particularly appropriate and relevant in today is the 18th. So for the last 16 days, we have had sickness in our house. Whether or not it was the sickness, I didn't test and don't care because I handled it the same as I would. You have a cough, I have a protocol for cough. You have fever, I have a protocol for fever. You've got sore throat, protocol. Sneezes, protocol. All in the kitchen cupboard. So what do you need? You need a thermometer. I spoke on this last time, and I'll very briefly recap it. You need a thermometer. Why? Because it's going to tell you the degree, pun intended, of concern that you should have for whatever illness you're dealing with. Very quickly, if you have a temperature that is 99, 100, okay, you can afford to wait, watch, see, home treat. You have a fever that's 103, 104 and better, that's when you absolutely positively should consult a medical provider. How will you know? You have to have a thermometer. Where did I get mine? Dollar Tree. How much did it cost me? $1. What did I do? When they were present, I bought 3-4 of them. Why did I do that? So that everybody could have their own. Now they have these other ones, these point at your forehead and do those. You can use those as well. I don't find them as reliable because the temperature on the skin is not going to be the same as the temperature in the mouth. But is it better than nothing? Absolutely. And if you only have one, what do you do with it? You have your second thing you have to have in your kitchen pharmacy, and there's some alcohol. You wipe it off with some alcohol. Yeah, you wipe it off in between people. You wipe it off after you use it yourself. Let it dry to the air. Simple, easy, low cost. Alcohol thermometer. Second thing, you need to have a blood pressure machine. No reason not to do it. Why? Because they're readily available on Craigslist. You can buy them in any of the pharmacies. You buy them in Walmart, and they're not expensive. Doesn't have to be exotic. Just get one and have one. Why? Because what people have noticed in this current sickness is that people, especially people who have taken the injection, is frequently after the second one or the third one, or even some people after the first one, they have what we call a hypertensive crisis. It means that their blood pressure goes through the roof, and that's a medical emergency. Well, how will you know? You won't know unless you can take it. And your own level of, wow, I feel bad. Well, should I go to the emergency room? Should I not? Is this something that can be taken care of at an urgent care center if you live where urgent care centers are? Well, one way you can know, you have your temperature, you have your blood pressure readings, right? And how should you know? Well, good gracious, how do I know if my blood pressure is normal? Well, there are basic guidelines, which I am encouraging you to look up. In this day and time of smartphones and computers, there is no reason to be ignorant of what these things are. In a nutshell, anywhere from 100 to 120 for the top number, and anywhere from 60 to 80 for the bottom number. Now, that's a very general range, and there's a lot of things, a lot of situations where it could be higher or lower. But one thing for sure, if you get a number on the top number that's above 150, 160, and you get the bottom number and it's inching up towards 100, this is a medical situation where it's appropriate to consult a medical provider. We have telephones, they have telehealth. You can call, you can ask. Right? This is what's the point here? Why am I hammering this point? Because you have to take control of your health. What's the third thing? This is probably the most important one from my standpoint, and that's called a pulse oximeter. Pulse oximeter. Pulse oximeter. Again, you can buy it in any store. What does it do? It measures oxygen concentration, saturation in your body. You put it on your finger, and it's going to tell you your pulse, and it's going to tell you how much oxygen is getting through your body. Why is this important? In this current situation, person's oxygen starts going down. This means that they are headed towards an urgent, emergent situation, and they need urgent medical care. So if you're dealing with somebody and, I got a cough, I got a sneeze, my temperature's 99, I feel good, my pulse ox is 98, anything 95 and better, you could call your doctor and tell your doctor that information, and they'll say, well, yeah, you can afford to treat this yourself, most people. However, you got a temperature 103, your blood pressure is high, and your pulse oxygen is going down, it's in the 80s, you call an ambulance. Now, that's common sense, self-care. And the other thing that I think is really useful here is to have what's called a diffuser. What's a diffuser? Anybody that uses essential oils knows what a diffuser is. It's a little gizmo that you can get Walmart, Five Below, places like that. and you put water in it, and under normal circumstances, you'd put a few drops of essential oil. And it turns into a mist. It looks almost like a smoke. And when you do that, it fills your room, it purifies your air, so on and so forth. But as I'm about to tell you, there's another use for it that you will find very, very helpful. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to jump in the interest of the time. Time really goes fast here. I want to give you, it really does. I want to give you a little, oh, it's amazing. I want to give you a little memory jogger or a little rhyme that you can say to yourself that will help you remember the protocols that Vladimir Zelenko, that's a name you should look up. Let me say it slowly for you. Vladimir, Russian name, Vladimir Zelenko. If you don't remember anything else, remember the last name. Z like zebra, E-L-E-N-K-O. Zelenko. Now, Vladimir Zelenko, medical doctor. His name is very hot in the alternative media now. And I believe he's an Orthodox Jewish fellow, based on the fact he wears a yarmulke in his appearance. And what he has done is to, in the treatment of his patients, formulate an inexpensive, very effective protocol for treating people with the current respiratory illness. And he has had tremendous success rates, keeping people out of the hospital, keeping people off ventilators, and getting people well. So his protocol, number one, you're going to look at it, look it up. That's all you got to do. And here's what you can do, listening audience. You can email me or email Sandy if it's easier for you. She'll get it to me. My email address is onesacredservice@yahoo.com. ONE sacred, SACRED, service@yahoo.com. And you just say, can you please give me the links to the things that you mentioned? I'll make sure you get it. So here's the little memory jogger. Silver, C, zinc, and D. Silver, C, zinc, and D. Say it with me. Silver, C, zinc, and D. Pat your weave and say it. Silver, C, zinc, and D. Yes. Now, why would I tell you that? I'm so glad you asked. Most people are not aware of something called colloidal silver. Colloidal silver. What's a colloid? A colloid is a liquid in which are suspended particles. And they stay suspended. So I'm referring you to a website, and I'm going to read it to you. Integrative Healthcare, SpringfieldMo.com. Integrative Health. Don't panic if you don't get it again. Remember, onesacredservice@yahoo.com. I'm making a point, not because I get any kind of kickback from these people, but because they've got a very nice explanation. So let me read this to you real quick. And it goes like this. Benefits of colloidal silver. Before the invention of the refrigerator, it was common practice to drop a silver coin into a container of milk as a preservative, because silver was known to prevent the growth of algae, bacteria, and other undesirable organisms. Dating back to ancient times, silver was also a popular remedy to stop the spread of diseases. Its use as a natural antibiotic continued all the way until the 1940s when what? The modern antibiotics arrived. Today, obviously, people don't need to drop silver coins into their beverages to experience colloidal silver benefits. You can now find colloidal silver online. It wipes out bacterial infections in a safe and clean manner without compromising our immune system like antibiotics do. It offers an alternative to endless rounds of conventional antibiotic that never seem to fully take care of the problem. Silver effectively vanished from the medicinal market in the early 20th century because it could not be patented. Are we beginning to see a pattern here, listeners? It seems that whenever, my words now, it seems that whenever an effective strategy for combating an illness is discovered, the people who stand to make a lot of money from things, if they can't own it, control it, patent it, sell it to you at exorbitant prices, then they send out the attack teams. They discredit it. They, just like they've done here, they flat out make it unavailable, which is insane. They make it unavailable. At this moment, if you got a prescription for hydroxychloroquine or for ivermectin, the pharmacists have been instructed to not fill it. Why is that?
Oh, wow.
You'd be hard-pressed to get it. And you're hard-pressed to get a doctor who's not afraid of losing his license to prescribe it for you. You have to go to America's Frontline Doctors. You have to look that up. You'll find them. A few courageous souls. But that's what characterizes this environment. And that is the suppression of free speech, dissent, and the suppression of any alternative means to treat. You see, advanced treatment to keep people out of the hospitals. I continue. Silver is getting its fame back as a safe, multi-purpose bacterial killer. It's known to kill superbugs such as MRSA and has been tested against 650 common and exotic infections and diseases. Here's 8 proven ways that it's become a major point of interest. Not only is colloidal silver super effective at eliminating bacterial infection, but it's also equally effective at resisting strains of bacteria, and it does not cause any further mutations, which is great news for its long-term uses as an antibiotic. Colloidal silver is a natural anti-inflammatory that works fast to reduce swelling, repair inflammation on skin and body. Colds and flu. Colloidal silver speeds recovery from the common cold and flu bugs with its immune-boosting benefits. Whether it's ingested or used in a breathing treatment, colloidal silver succeeds when antibiotics just don't cut it. It even holds its own against viral strains of pneumonia. So, yeah, good stuff. Been around. This is why silver has been such a province of the rich, and why they say why rich people always had silver services, silver beverage. They drank from silver. They used silver plates, used silverware, because they understood. So one thing I will tell you, remember, my purpose here is to activate you to want to learn more. You must get nanoparticle silver. Whatever you get, you have to make sure that somewhere in the description of that product, it says nanoparticles, right? If you don't, you will get a less effective and potentially injurious product that is a different chemical structure than nanoparticles. Nanoparticles will do the job. The other stuff is going to combine with elements in your body, in your stomach, not be absorbed, not do the job, and essentially waste your money, but over time can cause some side effects that you don't want. But for that, now used externally, it's very commonly used in burns, called sulfadiazine. Very commonly used. It's used in catheters for people who are in hospital, have indwelling catheters, and they always get bladder infections. Well, they put silver in the tip of the catheter, prevents bladder infections. So this is well known. It is only that we, the public, since they can't patent it, it's not something that's promoted. So put that on your list of things to look up and to have in your cupboard pharmacy. Colloidal silver nanoparticles. One place you can get it is called www.purestcolloids.com. www.purest, P-U-R-E-S-T, colloids.com. I get no kickback. I have to pay the same price that you do. Let me continue. I'm looking at the time. The next thing that you absolutely must have, oh my goodness, I'm referring you to a website called orthomolecular.org. Orthomolecular.org. How do you spell orthomolecular? O-R-T-H-O. O-R-T-H-O. Molecular. M-O-L-E-C-U-L-A-R. Orthomolecular.org. Remember my email address. I'll get it to you. Hydrogen peroxide. Now, this is what I alluded to earlier in the broadcast. Remember, I told you I asked for guidance, and I found this book that I had on hydrogen peroxide. Short sentence, look up everything you can find on hydrogen peroxide. Did you know, I'll condense things for you in the interest of time. Did you know that one of the reasons that raw fruits and raw vegetables are as good for us as they are is because water falls from the clouds. It passes through the ozone layer and turns into peroxide, which comes down to the earth in the rain. It gets into the earth. The plants take it up, and thereby when you eat fruits and vegetables, you're getting hydrogen peroxide. Why should that matter to you? Why should that matter to you? Because every cell in our body that fights anything uses hydrogen peroxide. Did you know that in the female vagina, there is an ecosystem? This ecosystem of different kinds of lactobacillus and so on and so forth in the healthy human vagina is cleaner than the healthy human mouth. Yeah, think about it. Why would the Creator allow life to be generated in a filthy, dirty place? It doesn't make any sense, right? And so the way that the body keeps itself clean, which is why you don't need douche agents and so on and so forth, feminine hygiene products, is because the bacteria in the vagina produce hydrogen peroxide. Amazing. Something else I didn't know. You ever wonder, well, you might not know, that infants do not have a fully functioning immune system until they are at least 3, and some people say 6 months to a year old. So where does the human infant get its ability to fight infection? Through the mother's breast milk. Well, what is it in the mother's breast milk that does that? In the colostrum, which is that thick, sweet substance that precedes the milk coming in, high content of hydrogen peroxide. Baby drinks the colostrum Baby then gets hydrogen peroxide in its body, helps it produce oxygen and fight infections. Amazing thing. I heard, and it didn't make sense to me until I remember one of the folk remedies amongst some tribes that I used to work with was that whenever the baby would get conjunctivitis, one of the things they used to do to prevent eye infection and treat eye infection in the babies was they would squirt the mother's breast milk into the baby's eyes. They'd clean the baby's eyes with the mother's breast milk. And I always wondered, well, how come that worked? It makes perfect sense now. Breast milk has high quantities of hydrogen peroxide. All of the white cells in our bodies use hydrogen peroxide to fight infection. Without it, we would die. Simple as that. Now, I know we're getting up on time. Let me just tell you this real quick. When you go to this orthomolecular.org, what you're going to find is a recipe or a protocol for nebulizing hydrogen peroxide. What does nebulizing mean? It means reduce things to a very, very, very fine mist, which can be inhaled. And so why did this doctor, his name is Thomas Levy, MD, he's a lawyer and a doctor. He traveled to Colombia. He had with him peroxide, basic 3% peroxide that you can buy in any place, Dollar Tree, Walmart, wherever. And he had a nebulizer because he had sinus infection. When he got there, his host and his friends were suffering from the sickness. He gave her, because he'd used it for his sinus infections and his own health, he gave her a treatment with the peroxide. He gave her 3 treatments in 24 hours, which completely reversed her symptoms. He left it with her. The people in her family and in her immediate environment, there were people that were extremely sick with the sickness. They used it. And he has a certain protocol for it. Nebulized basic 3% hydrogen peroxide. He gives the details and such here. And what they noticed was they decreased death and sickness by a huge number. Huge, huge, huge number. And so also the same doctor has another protocol using vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, and what? Hydrogen peroxide. Again, orthomolecular.org. The doctor's name is Thomas Levy, Levy. I can forward it to you. Now, is Kareema Medina Bilal telling you that you should do this and then you do this and something bad happens, it's my fault? No. I'm telling you, read it. I'm telling you, understand it, research it, and if it makes sense to you, do it. We had sickness here. As a matter of fact, the cough that you may have heard at a couple of times in the course of this presentation was my husband, who is rapidly getting over whatever the sickness might have been. We just call it a cold, a bad cold, or flu symptoms. And radically better, dramatically better, broke the fever, etc., using nebulized peroxide. Couldn't find a nebulizer right out, so what did I use? I used the diffuser. Same thing. Put a towel over your head, use the diffuser. So I could say a whole bunch more, but it's 10:23, and I said to Sandy that I would allow time for questions. So I'm going to say to you, you are not helpless. Listening audience, we are not helpless. We can be empowered if we choose to stop being afraid, open our minds, open some books, use this tremendous gift we have in the internet, and make a decision to take care of yourself. So I'll stop there, Sandy. We can go forward when you're ready.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're going to have time for one question. So the first person that hits one on their dial that has a question, you will have it answered by Sister Kareema. Or you know how I do, we'll just keep going for another few minutes. Anybody? Okay, well, nobody's coming forth just yet.
Okay, well, let me...
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right.
No, I was just going to say that I learned so much, especially about that hydrogen peroxide. I'll be on that website first thing in the morning.
Oh, yeah. Here it goes. Hydrogen peroxide has been used for many years. I'm reading directly from the article now. Hydrogen peroxide, and he gives the links. This is not just conjecture. There are links to scientific papers that, if you so choose, you could research. Hydrogen peroxide has been used for many years as a monotherapy, that means a single therapy, as well as part of many different treatment protocols for a variety of infections. A clinically effective dose will typically cost less than a dime. Now you know why it's not being spoken about.
Wow.
During a severe epidemic of influenza in 1919, that would be your Spanish flu, a protocol of intravenous hydrogen peroxide given only to the most severely ill patients dramatically decreased the death rate. And this is what happened. They found themselves in a situation where people were dying 80% of the time, and they didn't have anything they could throw at it. Nothing was working. So the doctor, who at that time said, well, I'll tell you what, we got nothing to lose here. And they gave peroxide intravenously, mixed it in a solution that you usually see, whether it's dextrose or saline or whatever, gave it intravenously, and they decreased the death rate by 80%. That's astonishing. Can you imagine what could happen now? Right? Due to its well-documented and potent anti-pathogen properties, along with producing no toxic byproducts upon killing pathogens, hydrogen peroxide is now being proposed in the literature for an off-label use via nasal and oral washing, a regimen of gargling, and administration via nebulization immediately upon symptom appearance, presuming that you have COVID. Now, what does this mean? It means that, see, right now, the way this goes, you think you're sick. You may be sick, but you don't feel so bad. You stay home. You test positive for COVID. You consult the hospitals and stuff. And unless you are acutely ill, they're not going to admit you. They will wait until you admitted to the ICU, where they're going to put you on the ventilators. And the ventilators themselves have a high rate of mortality just from being ventilated. Whereas if we chose the strategy of early treatment, and there's no discussion now, there's active suppression of early treatment, think of the lives that we could save. And so what this gentleman, Dr. Levy, what Dr. Zelenko are saying, and Dr. Zelenko, by the way, may Allah heal him, he has a fatal disease. He's got some malignancy. And what he said was, when they were asked, why are you doing this? He said, because I want my grandchildren. I'm doing this for my grandchildren. I want to leave a legacy. I want to help people. Same thing that Robert Malone, Peter McCullough, a lot of the other people who've come forward and say that there is a way out, and the way out is early treatment, not hospitalization. But these people are being attacked, despite the fact that before this thing jumped off, and when they were not speaking against the common narrative, these people were at the top of their career. They have Harvard, Yale, Stanford, name it. These people were at the top level, published authors. But all of a sudden, they speak out against the narrative, They say there is a different way to approach this. And all of a sudden, the fact checkers who couldn't take a rectal temperature, they come out and they're going to say, oh, we know more than them, and start to discredit these people.
Right.
So what's beautiful about this?
And they're doing that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's heinous. So what I'm saying to people here is, at your own risk, for your own edification, education, look this article. The authors, all of them have said, here's the protocol for free. We're not making any money out of it. For free. You can get this as a PDF, and now what you do for other people, you can go to jail for. But what you do to yourself is your own business, because this is your body.
Right. I am so apologetic for having to cut you off, but we are out of time once again. Now, look, you guys, let me give you this email address for Sister Kareema. It's one ONE Sacred SACRED service SERVICE@yahoo.com. One Sacred Service @yahoo.com. As always, we learned a lot. I told you to have your pencil and paper ready. I hope you took notes. I know I got 3 or 4 pages here of notes myself. So thank you once again, Sister Kareema Medina Bilal. You are just such a storehouse of knowledge, and we appreciate you taking the time to share with us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. All the thanks and praise goes to God. I just work for him.
Yes. I know that's right. Well, on that note, we'll close up for this evening, everybody. We thank you for being with us. And remember, it's all about life. It's all about love, and it's all about wellness. We have one more week on the immune system. Next week, please stay tuned. We're going to be talking about body movement and the immune system, and how the correlation between the two of them, how it impacts the body. So please, and we love you. We appreciate you, and stay safe out there. All right. See you next week. Bye.